Continuing to fill questions for USMLE, I have a student asking a very good question within our Telegram group about postponing the USMLE. Is it a good idea? When should he or she do it? Do I have any important information regarding it? I can give you a very fucking excellent answer here based on a decade of tutoring, many data points under my belt with many students. So before we get started, please subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it. Give the video a like, really appreciate it. Find me on Instagram at mehlman_medical, mehlman_medical. Links down below. Find me on Telegram. Links to the Telegram group and channel down below. And that's for the clip. So postponing, when should you do it? Is it a good idea at any point? And as I said, I can give you a very fucking excellent answer here based on a decade of tutoring with many data points, many students under my belt, which is if you've taken a fail on an online nbme within the final month, I want you postponing an entire month, and I want you going back through all of your UWorld incorrects, not a second pass of UWorld, just all your UWorld incorrects, okay? Now look, instantaneously, there's going to be a variety of circumstances with students where your school is forcing you to sit, you need to apply in time for the match, it's going to cost you $900 to extend your exam at this point, okay? So there's going to be a variety of circumstances. With regard to my experience tutoring, I don't like seeing borderline cases, okay? It tends to be a tug of war where the student wants to sit ASAP, I understand. And then I'm a bit more cautious where I say, I don't know if I want you going into the exam where you're borderline. It is infinitely worse for you to take a fail on the real USMLE than it is for you to be inconvenienced in whichever way because you've had to postpone, even if it involves paying an annoying amount of money, okay? It's infinitely worse in terms of your match possibilities to take a fail on the real deal. Now, I know some of you watching this clip may have a fail already, okay? Don't worry. And I've made clips on my YouTube here talking about how, yes, you can still match if you have a fail. But I'm just saying, in general, if you don't yet have a fail in your exam, do everything you can to avoid it. So if I recommend postponing a student, it's going to be if he or she has a fail on an online nbme within the final month, okay? And the other point is this, I can also sometimes recommend postponing a student if he or she is borderline pass. Okay, so the internal pass mark, 197 for step 1, of course, a pass-fail exam, 2CK, 214 to pass. I generally, for step 1, want to see 205 to 210 equivalent plus on the nbme exams, at least 2 to 3 exams, so you have a nice buffer in place. So if you've failed an online nbme, that's a definite postponement. If you are above the pass mark, but you're borderline, we don't yet have a nice 10-ish point cushion, then I will sometimes consider postponing a student, okay? And that's when it more comes down to the student says, look, I'm gonna have to pay fucking $1,000 to postpone at this point. I've been passing NBME, I've taken 2 NBMEs, I've passed by 5 points. Okay, we can go for it, okay? It's just I tend to be conservative when it comes to allowing borderline students to sit, okay? I really want you to have at least a 10-point clearance. Now, final point I want to make is regarding those of you who want to postpone potentially for 2CK. If you're already significantly above passing, but you just want an even higher score, let's say your NBMEs are low 230s, but you want a 250 plus because you want to apply to a competitive specialty, I usually tend not to advise postponing. It's not that it can't be done, okay? It's just that most students tend not to be as efficient with their time as they might imagine. If you're the type where, no jokes, legitimately, you could sit in your room for 12 hours a day, review all the clinical master's series forms, all the NBME material assiduously, be very efficient, okay, we can consider postponing 2-3 weeks, try to get you from low 230s up to 250 as an example, but most students tend not to be very efficient that way. And another point is that your score on the real deal is largely going to be a toss-up just depending on the version of the exam you get. The same way this is the case on the NBME exam. So when you take NBMEs, you might get a 231, you might get a 238, 1 day apart. Okay, they just happen to be different forms. Well, that's how it is on the real deal. So whether you sit in a different cubicle, whether you take the exam 1 day earlier or later, it's largely a toss-up, okay? There's going to be fluctuation. So in terms of postponing when you're already scoring high, I tend not to see that as necessary. I tend to just get students to sit. I want to see that you've gone through all the Clinical Master's Series material for 2CK, all the nbme exams, okay? If you've gone through all that material and you're significantly above pass, I tend to just have you sit. If you haven't finished all that material, we could say, well, you haven't fully prepped yet. Yes, you could potentially benefit by postponing, because objectively, getting through that material is going to increase your score. You know the deal. I'm going to continue to make more content. If you like my stuff, subscribe to my channel. And I appreciate your time. That's it.